This scene was created using a 2D image, a depth map, one area light, one point light, a little bit of fog, and a bike. I realize the scene is probably incomplete and it's not perfect, but I wanted to put together a video to show the power of what Blender can do with just a single image. For example, I'm going to select the point light at the very back of the scene, and I'm going to move it around just a little bit. See how the light's changing based on where I move it? That's very powerful, and this was originally from a 2D image. I'm going to go into the Lights Data tab on the right and change the color. Let's change it to something like red. See how the color's changing? Now let's select the bike in the scene. You can see how you can move it around. All right, and then I'm going to go to the area light in the front. You can change the power of the light. I'm going to increase it from 10 for the power to something like 30. This is what the scene looks like in solid mode. Here's the side angle and the backside. The backside and the side angle don't have to be perfect because the camera view is coming from the front. And here's the original image. I generated the image using Midjourney. The right side is a depth map. I generate depth maps using my own tool in Blender called Depth Map Batch. It will generate depth maps for a batch of images in a directory, a video file, or a single image. But you can generate depth maps online in places like Hugging Face or set up a local environment on your machine using something like Comfy UI. However, I built the tool so that I can keep my workflow within Blender and not rely on any external tools or web services. Now it's time to recreate the entire scene from the very beginning. I'm going to type in A on my keyboard to select everything in the scene, then press X, then delete. Next is importing the original image, which is this one here. Okay. Then finding the corresponding depth map, which is this one. All right. Then for depth strength, I'm going to increase this to 2 to start with. Then for subdivision, I'll leave at 8. The smooth factor, I'm going to drop down to 1 and scroll all the way down to click Apply Depth Map. And okay, so we have our 3D mesh here for the scene. It looks pretty good as a starting point. You might be wondering what tool I'm using to generate the 3D mesh from a 2D image and depth map. It's called zForm, and I developed the tool myself to help speed up my workflow. Instead of having to manually do everything in the modifiers tab, I can generate the 3D mesh in a few simple clicks. So it saves me quite a lot of time, but you can generate the same exact thing if you only use the modifiers tab. Now for some lighting, I'm going to type in Shift A and search for point to get a point light. Keep in mind we're currently in material preview mode. If I move the point light across the scene, I don't see any light at all changing the image. What we need to do is go into the render preview mode in the top right. Now if you start moving around the point light and the scene, you can see it impacting the image like that. Ultimately what I want to do is bring this point light to the very back side on that far back door. I'm going to type in 3 on my keyboard and move the point light to the very back of the scene like that. Maybe about right there. I'm going to type 1 to go back to the front view. The first thing I notice is the strength is too much. So I'm going to go to the Light Data tab on the right here and adjust the power down to maybe something like 2. Okay, that's still a little too much for me. I'm going to go down to 1. All right, that's better. If we want to change the colors, we can do that right here. And you can see it changing colors like that. I might do a little bit of red, but not much like that. Now let's add an area light. Type in Shift A and type in light. And I'm going to pick area for this one. And you'll see right away that it's impacting the scene. I think that's really cool. Type in GY to move along the Y-axis like that there. So see how the light's changing? Or GZ to go up and down. See how it's changing the light up and down. You can go close to the floor. Or we can rotate it by typing R and rotate it like that there. There's a lot we can do with this. I don't think there's one right answer. Here's what I ultimately came up with for the area light. It took me a lot more time than I was hoping. In all reality, I really don't like it, and I'm confident you can do just as good, if not better, than what I have. For the area light, I have a power of 17 and a little bit of a cream color for the light. If we were going to turn the point light off in the back, it would look like that. And this is on and off. By the way, you can actually animate this if you want for the lights. If we were going to turn the area light off, it would look like that. We can adjust the world light settings here if you go to the world settings tab. And the color right now is not entirely black. We can drop that down if we want. I actually like it totally black, But for working, it's easier to have it a little bit lighter. Maybe increase it a little bit more. About right there. All right. Quick update on the area light. I ended up increasing the power to 130 watts and increasing the size to 4 meters. Next, we're going to add some fog. Type in Shift A, then search for cube and hit enter. Then go into front view by typing 1 and open up the shader editor. And I'm going to click new for a new shader. I'm going to delete the principal BSDF, then search for volume scatter. There it is. Okay, before I plug it into the volume, I'm going to adjust the density down to 0.005 to start with. Then plug it into the volume, and I'm going to move this down so I can see the entire scene. This is what it looks like with the volume scatter. I'm going to adjust the volume scatter a little bit more to something like 0.08. All right, and I can see a little bit more off, on. It's too much. I'm going to drop it down to 0.06. Oh, and I'm using Eevee as the render engine. Not too bad. Now it's time to add the bike into the scene. I purchased this model on Blender Market. I'll provide a link in the description if you want to support the creator and use the model. Since I'm using Blender 4.3, I can just drag the FBX asset into the scene like that. Click import. Let's go into solid mode. All right, I'm going to go back out. And the bike is way too big. Scale it down quite a lot. And I'm going to move it to the side, press GX like that. And it looks like there's 3 different parts of the bike right now instead of 1. So I'm going to just join everything together, including the pedals. Press Ctrl J. Then hide the cube temporarily using the eye. I'm going to press S to scale and scale it down and scale it down more. Then move it back. Now I'm going to go back into the render preview and then rotate Y so it's leaning against the wall. All right, that pretty much wraps it up. There's a whole lot more that we can do. The main goals I had in mind for this video is 1, showing how powerful Blender can be when you're simply using an image and a depth map and then converting it to a 3D mesh and adding lighting into the scene and an object. I'm not a pro with this, but I hope you've been able to get something out of this video and tutorial. Okay, that's all I got.